Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well still, and welcome to tonight's second half. We are going to stay in that great state of Maine. Earlier today, I did an interview with Kevin out of Maine, and right now I've got another subscriber out of Maine that has some just absolutely terrifying but very interesting stuff to share. Before we get into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they really do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to the second half, shall we? All right, today, people, I have a subscriber who is from Maine. His name is Matt, and he has some firsthand experience that he wants to share with us. He also has some experience from friends that he's spoken with over the years, because he's been into cryptozoology for a while now, and being from the state of Maine, which is just densely full of woods, that you've definitely got some stories to share with us. So, Matt, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm glad that you. I'm good. I'm glad that you took some time out of your day to share with us. And I'm going to give you the floor, and you go from there, my friend.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'm Matt. I'm from Maine, Mid Coast, Maine area. I never really thought that I'd be on one of these shows, talking about this, but I here I am today, sharing my situations and what happened to me. All right, so I'll say it like this, that I was, as a child, I was always out in the woods. I loved hunting, fishing, and trapping. That's part of our life and my heritage, growing up. So I'll have to say, like, one of my first experiences, something that I look back, now that I think, as an adult and knowing that these things are real, we were out, about 5 of us were out there. We were going to set some raccoon traps. I was 10 years old, I believe, at that time. And we had set them up. And while we were going out in the woods, I had opened my traps up, set them on the ground, and I heard this, what I thought, because we normally have a lot of tourists that will come here during times, during the summer times in my area, because it's a big tourist destination. And I couldn't understand why they were out in the woods, but I heard this weird whistling sound, and what I thought was like a weird songbird, and then like weird talking. It was like a chattery talk, and I just thought at first that it was somebody, talking like Asian or something. I couldn't, as a kid, I didn't know all that stuff like that when I was younger. And this big rock comes flying, a good little, it was about the size of one of those little duck pin bowling balls, come flying at this tree right next to us and smacked. And we got all scared and ran, and we couldn't figure out, we ran home, all of us kids, trying to figure out who was out there, what was that, I mean, you don't think of it being like Bigfoot or anything else like that. So, they were on the West Coast. You never thought of anything like that. And, we were kids. We didn't really know much about that back then either. So I never really understood what that was at that time. And down the line, I would go out there on these trails stuff, and I would always find, like, in this one spot that I was at, I'd find, like, these knives or whatever, and just always in this one spot, and I couldn't never figure it out. And now that I look back, I'm like, man, is this the same things that I saw as an adult? Were they in this area and like, leaving these things for me? Like, I don't know. I can't say it at that time, but it just seems like it all adds up like that. So I'll get to my first encounter. At the age of 17, I had left the state of Maine, and then I had moved down to Tennessee, and I was living down there for a while. So I came home, and I believe it was 2000. We were driving back in January, and back from Tennessee up to Maine, and we were coming down through the roadway. It was winter. There had been a big snowfall here, and I had my friend Andy with me. And we were on the old coastal route, the Augusta Road. We took the back way coming into, the back side of Waldoboro area. And on the double side, there's like lanes, the roads here, the highway roads, there's 3 lanes, and you can't see the other side where the oncoming traffic is. It's like all woods and high hilltops on the side. So as we came around the bend, I had a 1997 Ford Thunderbird, and it was pearl white. And the snow, it blended. It was a super quiet car, and it blended right in with the snow. I mean, perfectly. You would never even see it. It was perfect camouflage. That's the only reason I think that we came there. So down the way, we came around the bend, and I say a couple hundred yards maybe down the way, on the straightaway, up on the right side of the hill, I saw, because the snow, when it gets heavy, it drops. So I didn't think anything of it at first. And there was huge pine trees there. And as I'm slowing down, because I seen something big and brown come out from the tree underneath these overhanging trees. And I said, first thing I said, Andy, look, there's a moose, because he's never seen any. He's from Tennessee. And I'm slowing down as we're coming down, and this thing walked out from this tree, which I thought was at first the tree. I guess it wasn't. It was, and then a moose, and it was a Bigfoot. This thing was massive. I cannot express how huge this thing. It started walking down the slope line, and as it was walking down the slope line, we're slowing down, and we both come to the meeting point in the middle of the road, and it's just sitting there, hunched down in the middle of the road. I'm like not even 35 maybe yards from it, and we're just looking at it. It's looking at us, and it turns around. And it just takes 3 big strides, and it's like halfway back. I crossed the middle of the lanes all the way back to the way it came. It was halfway up the hill. It hunched down, looked at us, and then it turned and it walked a couple strides and stood at the base where the tree it was at, looked at us, and then just blended back into the forest as it walked back in there. And that was my first encounter.
Now, is this the one that when you and I had talked prior, was that the one that you said was as big as a bull moose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this thing, that's what I thought. At first, I thought it was a bull moose, because the bull moose up here, they're like the full-grown adult bull moose are huge.
Right.
And that's exactly when it came out from their trees, because these pines, and if anybody's from the Maine area, they'll know that, like on the coastal road, when you take it down, you'll see up on the upper ledges, because they slope, the hillsides slope up, and then it goes to the woods where the 3-lane highways are. And the pines that are there are massive. There's some huge pines there. And that's what I thought it was. I thought it was, and this thing was at least 9-10 feet tall, because I used to work with pipe. I measured and weight my entire life, being a pipe fitter. And yeah, it was easily 9-10 feet tall, at least 900 to 1,000 pounds, at least. I could be underestimating on, the weight of this thing. I've never seen, you've seen grizzly bears, moose and stuff, but I've never seen something built like this. And its legs were like telephone poles, man, like the thickness just in its legs. It was just massive. Yeah. Not long as telephone poles, but, it's thick.
Right.
This thing's huge.
Yeah.
There was not a doubt in my mind that this thing could not, with ease, have ripped my car door off. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, why didn't you hit it? You'd be rich. if you'd have hit this thing, and this is no joke, with that car, like, I doubt, I'd have been going a couple, 100 miles an hour, and it would have just destroyed my car, and I don't even know if that would have killed this thing. This thing was huge. Like, I cannot express the size of this creature. It had it was built, I mean, like a wrestler, but like just solid muscle. Didn't have like a six pack or anything. It had like a barrel solar plexus, like almost like gorillas do. You know what I mean? Like they have that half barrel look, but his like chest was just every bit of him just rippled muscle, like all muscle, man. Just there was nothing that it didn't even look like you could pinch, an ounce of fat off of this thing, and which is just crazy because like they must have a huge appetite. They really do, because there's just no way this thing. I don't know, man. It just blows my mind that like this is out here and people, I know others have seen them. People are scared to talk about it more coming forward now. But he was, it was quite a sight.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And that was when you were 17, and then you moved on?
No, I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I was in 2000. I moved when I was 17 to Tennessee. I had gotten married there, and I had lived there for a few years. I had lived there for like 11 years, and I was coming home for just after Christmas. I had gotten some vacation time, so I wanted to come home and see my family for a week.
Okay.
So, yeah, and that was in the year 2000 that had happened.
Okay. All right. And then when was your next encounter?
Our next encounter, my next encounter was, let me think here. My nephew and I were out hunting coyotes in the area in Warren, and it was at these gravel pits. We were doing night hunting. I used to do a lot of trapping, hunting, fishing, stuff like that. I'd gotten a fox pro collar, and we wanted to go up because I had noticed that my hunting area was just like used to be really filled with deer and game, and that year it was just like everything was just decimated, man, decimated, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. So obviously we were like, all right, well, it's got to be the coyote, because nobody saw deer there, and it was uncommon for people not to get deer there. So we went and we set up out there, and I had set my game call up, and it was during the winter time, right after a couple months after deer season, right about now actually, this time of year, and we set it up, and so I let off my coyote hot call, and then I let off of it's called a location call. Did that, didn't get no response, so I just hit the rabbit squirrel with a snowshoe hare in distress, and we're sitting there, and that night, the weirdest thing about it is like that night, it really, really, really felt the air. It was almost like the air was just electric. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
It didn't feel right. Everything just really felt just real energetic, which was just really odd, especially for that time of like almost after a thunderstorm or something, but like that time of year is just weird. And next thing we're in the gravel pit. We're sitting up in my truck because I won't go out in the woods alone anymore after seeing what I saw the first time like that. I won't go in after dark. I won't stay after dark. I won't go in before daylight. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And I used to live out there. I used to run hounds, be out there all night long, do all that kind of stuff. Sorry, I'm not trying to jump around here.
No, it's all right.
So we hit that call, and the next thing you know, we're sitting there and we're talking or whatever. My nephew, he was 12 years old at the time, 12. And we were just looking at each other. He's like, I want to go get in. And this roaring howl came out that was from behind the tree that was just, you could literally feel it echoing through your chest in the vehicle, because we were sitting in my truck up above. ready to take the shot down below where the decoy and the collar was. And he looked at me and he was like, "What is that, Uncle Ben?" And I was like, "I think you know what that is, you know." And then I up above me, I'd say about 1,000 yards up of us, where there's these cave areas too. This other one let out like, and I gotta say, this roar that thing had let out was just like, it was like a howl, but a roar too, like, you know. I can't even do it without shaming it. And then up above us, all of a sudden you heard this, it's screaming, and you could hear, like, and this thing was far. I knew exactly where it was, up on the mountainside up there. And next one, it let out another roaring howl, and then that thing did it again, and you could literally hear that thing as it was sounding off, coming down, coming through the woods, and just crashing like it was like a freight train coming through there. Excuse me. My nephew, he's freaking out. He's like, basically like crying, turns white as a ghost. He's like, "I want to go, I want to go. You know, I'm not going to get the collar. I want to go home." So I had to jump down and I grabbed the collar. Now this thing wasn't, you know, not even like maybe a couple hundred yards from us, behind this tree line where this thing was, and it didn't appear to us. And I wanted to stay. I wanted to drive around because it's a gravel pit, huge logging and gravel pit area that has like logging roads all through it where this happened. And I wanted to go down and come around and see it, but he didn't. And I was like, you know, I really wanted to. And so we ended up leaving that night. He didn't want to stay. So I mean, what do you tell us? That's petrified. Like that encounter earlier. And I was like, you know, a few years back, and that just sealed it for him after that. When we seen that, you know, what happened to us there. So, you know, it was pretty intense time. And that's the thing, is earlier that summer when we had been in there, there's a trout river that runs not far from there, like literally right down the road in the area. And I mean, I'm an ex-trapper, you know, and I'm an ADC trapper, you know, wildlife control trapper. I love it, live it. I track animals, anything, you know. I had come across these footprints that were dog. They weren't dog, and they looked like wolf footprints. And that's why I'm like, you know, I can't. I don't know what those two were, because we didn't stick around long enough. We come out of there, but like literally right in that area were these prints, and I have pictures of them on one of my old phones, but it's broken, and I got to be able to pull them off. These footprints, and I know Mastiff, I know Great Danes, I know all the largest dogs that there are, you know. These things, to dwarf their footprints, they look like, have you ever seen not the large dinner plate, but the smaller dinner plate?
Yep.
The medium? They were literally that size. Like, and I'm not talking the ones that you set your coffee on. I'm talking those, you have the coffee saucers, go the next step up.
Right.
That's how big these things were, and they were deep in this muddy area there. And I just, that blew me, threw me for a loop, and I'm like, what the hell made this? You know, where is this thing? You know, what is this thing? You know, so, and that was in that area.
It's definitely crazy.
It is, it is, and it just blows my mind. So I'll go on to our next encounter then. All right, so you wouldn't think that like lightning strikes in the same place twice, you know. That's 2 times that I've had these weird encounters and sightings with people, and they're thinking, okay, well now I know what's going on with our deer spot or whatever. Now there's power lines that connect these areas right here. They all connect, like, and I honestly believe whatever these things are, they're using these power lines as game trails. It has to be. It led to another gravel pit that I go blueberry raking and picking with my little girl, and I've done it with her, and we save them for the year, and we like to freeze them for the winter time here, you know. We we have blueberry fields out there. I went down there to go check on the blueberries and the blackberries. And this was, let's say, 5 years ago, right around that time, 4 or 5 years ago. That was with Brandon. So yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say my mind's not working on my days on that, but like, we went down there. So I went down to go check on them, and I got in there, and I looked, and it was right before dark. And I walked in, and I pulled into the gravel pit, and I looked there, and there was these huge, like, footprints and handprints, and you could tell where, like, it was a Bigfoot, man. Like, it'd been sitting there, and it'd been eating the blueberry. So I got in my car, and I went back to Walmart, and I grabbed some packing material, and I got my friend Nick, because we had seen these footprints prior in the snow and the other area, and I got photographs of them. They were just massive. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, you know, the Bigfoot's been down at the gravel pit eating the blueberries. And we drove down there, and he's like, oh, and I got down there, and he's like, oh, my God, you know, so we're sitting there, and it's just after dark. You know, he's holding a flashlight, and all of a sudden, it's like, we're at the bottom of the gravel pit, and it's higher up above us, and that's where the blueberry field is, right up above us. And you can feel, like, vibration, like, just boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, Nick, you hear that? You feel that? And he stops. He's like, what is that? I was like, is that a deer? And I was like, shine a light up there. Is that a deer? And all of a sudden, just as I said that, you could hear it, boom, boom. And this basketball, like, this thing was the size of a basketball, come flying over us, like, right over us, on the side of us, like, we're looking at it, like, and it hits this tree, this huge pine tree up above us on the right, and it was like, have you ever seen those ping pong balls where it's just like, it hits one branch, and then it goes down, and it goes to the other, and then it goes down, and it's just like tick-tock, going down, and like, it freaked us out, man. There's no way somebody could have thrown that thing like that. It pitched it like it was a baseball, you know, and it's whoosh. And we ended up jetting up out of there and getting out of there. I dropped the casting material and all that. Ended up leaving. We did. We come back the next morning. Got my tracks, my cast, my arm prints, where it had leaned there. And that was our third encounter.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insanity.
Yeah. So then, when you've had how many Bigfoot encounters?
We've had after this. Was it last fall? My daughter and I, and these are all in the same area. And my daughter and I were driving down on the Kastner Road. It's called the Kastner Road in Walterboro, which is right connects down by that gravel pit.
Okay.
We saw one which was at the base of the field. It was at the beginning of the wood line, the field that was standing there. And it wasn't as big as the other ones. It was smaller. I'd say about 5 foot. It was jet black. At first I thought it was a black bear. And I pulled over to the side and I was like, look, Liberty, there's a bear. And then it stood up. And when it stood up, it started doing like this rocket, like, you know, like almost like a tick-tock clock. You know how it goes side to side, but it goes slow?
Right.
I was looking at that, and it was just standing there, and then it crouched down, and it looked at us, and I was like, that's not the bear. She's like, Daddy, look at the Bigfoot. And I was like, it is. You know, it is a Bigfoot. And it was about 5 foot. It was black color. We sat there watching it for a few minutes, maybe like 15 minutes, and then it turned, and it walked back in, and it looked back, and then it just kept going. And I told her, I was like, she's like, because I have shit cuts. And I was like, don't go telling Mom that. You know what I mean? Because,
yeah.
you know, like, hey, people don't accept, you know what I mean? Like, I just saw Bigfoot with Daddy, you know, like, and, you know, I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, it's, what do you do, man? You know, I mean, you can't tell your kids to lie, and then the next week you tell them, well, don't say anything, you know, like, but, you know,
it sounds like, just from what you're saying, you know, in this same general location, it sounds like there's a small pod of them living there. I mean, they've obviously got everything they need. they've got some shelter, they've got plenty of food, they've got water, you know, so I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like they've got a little pod of, you know, how maybe less than 10, more than 5.
Right. I think it's a family group, I honestly believe, because of we've been out at night, you know, and we've heard knocks, and then we'll hear another knock in areas that nobody's supposed to be in. You know, like years ago, like I don't go out at night anymore. I refuse to in the woods, you know, especially if I'm alone. But years back, we were like, what is, you know, I'm not going to say, I'll give the reason why, you know, like back in the day, you know, marijuana stuff used to not be legal here. You know what I mean? It is now. So people used to grow it back, you know, and you'd go out there and you'd be making sure that your stuff was taken care of or whatever. And then you hear somebody knock and you're like, what is that? Why is somebody out? You know what I mean? Nobody should be way out here, you know? So that's one of the reasons. And there's a lot of things on that we could talk about. But yeah, I believe 100% that there's a family group out here. I really do. Especially from what others have said and seen in this area and people have done and heard. And we have our message boards that are on Facebook, and every year during the springtime, right around March through May, they'll go the area that I'm speaking of. They'll go up and down the fieldways and the roadways, and people will be on there saying, "I saw the thing again," or "It's out here howling," because it sits there and they'll sit there and scream. I honestly think that they have a breeding season, and I think it's been. I really do. I think that's their main season, because my sister used to live down there, and she would hear them, and she would call me up and be like, "They're out here screaming again," you know, and it's like clockwork. Every spring, you'll hear them right at the beginning of spring. They'll be out there roaring and howling, and it's people around here seeing them. They've all heard them. It's not like, you know, and I'm glad that now we have like social media and groups like yours, you know, and stuff like that to be able to, you know, share these, because the more people that put this stuff out, the more that people are realizing, like, hey, I had this happen to me, or, you know, they don't feel ashamed or belittled, because that's the big thing. People feel that way, and they don't want to be known as, you know, crazy or laughed at. I don't care.
Right.
I'm an honest person, you know. I mean, I don't know what I've seen out there, because I worry about people. You know, I'm not saying that they've ever done anything other than throw a rock or roar at us, but I wouldn't want my kid out there, or somebody else is out there, or somebody, because people have come up missing around here a lot, you know. And there's reasons for this. I don't think they're all bad. I don't think they're all good, but you may run into one that somebody just shot at me or shot at it just a mile down the road, you know, and it may not be a good encounter.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're an animal, but you know, I mean, they've got intelligence, like
Absolutely.
we have intelligence. So obviously, they have, you know, there's good ones, bad ones, and they obviously can have good days or bad days, like you just said. And I appreciate you saying that, because, you know, who's to say that you're out there and you spot one, you don't know if a couple days ago it got, you know, shot at, or like you said, its mate got shot, or it's young, you know, you don't know.
Right.
So, yeah, I appreciate that. So,
you know, I just honestly think it's, if you're not prepared for it, you know, and even if you are prepared for it, really going out and, you know, messing with them, you know, or isn't a really good idea. I mean, go get whatever you want to do, you know, but use common sense and caution, you know.
Yep.
Use common sense and caution, because, as I said, like, these things are powerful. Like, and it kind of bugs me, too, because I'll see these people post, you know, on these Bigfoot forums or whatever, and I never really used to go on there, but then I got tired of it when I would see it post or whatever, and I'd see it, and they'd be like, oh, if you look here, there's a Bigfoot in this picture or whatever. No, you'll know if you see one, because you'll never forget it, you know, and they're not all massive or whatever. I think, you know, I know, because the juveniles are small. They're smaller. They're juvenile. Their kid ones are like the size of an adult male. It's the adult that is a really massive one. You know, the full-grown ones, and like how can I, explain it? Like it would kick its arms up, like almost like it was a little not flapping, making big flapping, just raising its arms up, like like if somebody looks at you and they talk and they go like, what,
Okay.
that's kind of what it looked like, and it was like walking around there, but I absolutely believe that's their children's version, like
Oh yeah,
that's what they're.
yeah, obviously, yeah. Now you've had, I don't know where you want to go on this, but you've had a couple of Dogman encounters. I mean, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that or if you want to get into what your friends have told you.
Yeah. See, and that's my Dogman encounter was, I think, I don't know if that's where we've seen those footprints, and I can't say if that what we saw was a Bigfoot, that one that roared at my nephew and I. So I don't know. I didn't think it was sitting behind the tree line right there at us when we got scared and we left. So I don't know. I don't know which one that was, but I'll tell about after I'd had my sightings and stuff and word had gotten around. I had a friend of ours, and he was hitchhiking when he come to me like, man, I heard you seen something, and I was like, yeah. He's like, man, I want to tell you what happened. So he's a carpenter, and he's well known from this area. I drop his name. I'm sure if anybody around this area is listening to know exactly what I'm talking about. He said, he's like, Matt, I was hitchhiking down by the apple farm, and this is on the backside of Waldeboro, and there's an apple farm up there, and it leads down to a road that goes this huge swamp up there, and there's a culvert under the road. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm hitchhiking back from the party. I was like, yeah. He's like, so I'm getting at the bottom, midway to the hill, and the moon's behind me. And he's like, all of a sudden I hear this roaring howl. And I'm like, no kidding. He's like, yeah. He's like, this roaring howl. And he's like, man, it scared me to death. And I was like, well, what happened? He's like, as I was sitting there, looking back from where this howl is, he's like, out walked this werewolf. He's like, I could see him in the moonlight. It was really lit up. He's like, up above me was a werewolf. He's like, and it roared and it howled. And I was like, what did you do, man? He's like, I ran down to the bottom of the hill, and this thing was like following me. And he said he I don't know if I can say this on whatever. I said, Joel, what did you do? He said, I shit my pants. So I was like, what? He's like, I he defecated and urinated. Like, I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, man, it scared me so bad, I literally, lost my bowels. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, so what happened? He said that he went inside the culvert and he got in the water and he laid in the water, and this thing was walking above him back and forth, roaring, howling, making these weird noises. And I was like, well, what happened? What happened? He's like, man, I stayed in that culvert all night long with this thing walking around me. He's like, and then, it finally ended up leaving, and I was so scared that I didn't even leave till it was daylight. And I believe it. I mean, this guy's a known, BS, well-respected carpenter of this area. So he told me that there was another sighting that a friend of mine just recently had told me this was 2 winters ago, because I had put on Facebook and stuff, a couple of things that I was seeing, and she's like, she messaged me on Facebook, she's like, I want to tell you something. I was like, what? Like, I saw something, and this is our area too. She says, my husband has a minivan. I said, yeah. She said, it's his work van. It's bigger than the small regular minivan. It's one of the minier work vans. She's like, Matt, 3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep. It didn't feel right. She lives up in Rockport, up on the mountain there. And she's like, so I kept looking out my windows. I don't know why. She said that when she looked out her window, she's like, there was a wolf out there. And I was like, you mean a coyote, or a coy dog? She's like, no, it was a wolf. So I was like, how do you know this? She's like, Matt, it was standing next to my husband's minivan, looking up at me through my window. I was like, yeah? And she's like, Matt, it was big as my husband's minivan. He said the thing was like the size of a cow. Ugh. So that's not normal.
Right.
You know?
No.
And the last one that I had somebody tell about, we were at we had just gotten out from going to get something to eat, and there was a group of us, and there was a girl in the group, and we had gone just a couple of years back. We had gotten talking about, somebody had mentioned something about Bigfoot, and people laughing or whatever like that, and I was like, yeah, I saw one. So she was sitting there talking to us, and she said to me and my friend Courtney, like, I want to tell you something that happened to me in Warren area, same area where this other stuff is all taking place. This Warren and Waldoboro area. She's like, we were driving home, my mother and I, and we were coming around a corner, and she was like, there was a werewolf standing in the field right by the road looking at us. And I was like, I kind of feel bad because this is like before Joel had told me his story, well, his encounter. I hate calling them stories, man, because it's people encounters, you know.
Right.
I felt bad for this. I kind of chuckled at it. I was like, well, I've seen Bigfoot. So I'm not going to say werewolves aren't real, but I've not seen a werewolf, like that. And she was like, she explained to me how her mom is scared her to death, and she had people laugh at her. So she said that they had come around the corner, and there was a werewolf standing right there looking at her. And I was like, well, are you sure it was a werewolf? She's like, it was standing up on two legs. It had the long claws. It was gray in color, like a grayish blue, and it was a werewolf looking at us. And she's like, I told her, real. She said it was massive too. So, and that's not, like, there's been other people around these areas that have seen these things. So this area, like, it's just weird. You wouldn't, it's hard to even fathom that these things are even legit, like somebody on the outside has never seen one or never heard, like, you hear people talking about their experiences, and you're like, yeah, man, that's cool, or I'd like to see one, until you really do see one, like, and then you're figuring, you're like, why are we being lied to? Why is this, how is this even happening? It's like, it blows my mind, but it also just upsets me too, because they know that these things are real. Not just the people that experience them, but the law enforcement, game wardens, and they all know these things are real.
Yeah.
There's not, and they're not telling people. And what in the hell are they? Why are they here? Why are we being lied to about this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They just want to keep us in the dark as much as possible. And, I think that's why it's beneficial that more people like yourself and others come out and share, their encounters, on top of, being able to get it off your chest, and then have a comment section where, you've got great people to communicate with. But then more encounters come out, we can kind of figure things out and geographically look at where these encounters took place, and, try to figure out what the heck is going on.
Exactly. And that's the other thing about it is, you think that, and I've asked this question myself, and I'm so happy that it wasn't just me when all these things happened. I had one witness or multiple witnesses with me that weren't believers either. You know what I mean? When these events took place. So it's like, hey, he says these things, well, I saw one do it. You know what I mean? Like that sort of, and you would never think that it happens, but I guess if you're in an area and you're out in the woods all the time, you're going to have more chance of seeing it, especially if you're in an area that they're known to be in or they're traveling to. And they chase the seasons with the animals, whether it's the fish or the deer or what have you. There's not a doubt in my mind. And I honestly 100% know that they travel these power lines. So
yep.
That's a good place to look for them.
Yeah, it's a perfect, pole lines and, riverways, waterways is just a perfect area, because they can travel and still feel safe, because they have some woods you know, where they can just run into very quickly, or at least somewhere to hide, you know.
You know, that's it. You know, they can just disappear or whatever. And that's the same thing about here. Like, where our area, like, it's basically, I mean, it's definitely filled up with people in the last 20 years. So that's probably another reason why we're seeing more of this. You know, like, we used to be little cookie cutter villages pretty much around this area. Now people are everywhere. So they ain't got much room to hide, you know. Like, and I think that's another reason why we're seeing so many is because they're being pushed out and there's more roadways. But then there is a lot of, you know, forest and main. You know, there's a lot. And that's the other thing I always think about. If we're seeing them here, you know, so frequently, and that's because, and there's, you hear sightings all over, like even Ellsworth, Bangor, all over the place. You know, like there's been multiple sightings everywhere you hear people talking about seeing these things. There's got to be more than just one of these. You know, there's got to be more than just this little group that's over here. You know, there's sightings all over. You know, so that right there tells you that just in this state alone, that there's a good little population of each one of these types of creatures.
Absolutely. Yeah, most definitely there are. So
that probably left out some of mine. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, I was going to ask if you had any more, and then.
No, but basically I mean, gosh, I'm trying to remember if I've left anything out, or I'll probably get off here and be like, oh, I forgot about telling that, or whatever, you know, but that's it, you know. And I've gotten, you know, pictures and all that, cast prints of my encounters after they've happened or before, you know, when I went to the blueberry field to get that, and got footprint pictures and some amazing stuff from this. And
I'd love for you to send me a couple of pictures of the casts if you could.
Absolutely.
I'd appreciate that.
I've got I got that. We were at the blueberry field because the gravel pits slope up, and then you have the blueberry fields up on the top. You know, it's like gravel pits just carved right out of the landscape there. And you can literally see where it was walking, and it laid at an angle on the gravel pit side, and was sitting there, and they ate all the overhanging berries, like they were just gone, and you could see where all the other berries were. And I got a perfect arm, and you could see the hair coming off of it, and the fingerprints where it had put its fingers in the dirt, the whole paw. It was pretty amazing. I never thought I'd find something like that, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, most definitely is. Now, really quick before when you were talking about the print that you thought was a Dogman print, and you compared it to kind of like a plate.
Absolutely.
Now, would you say like about 6 inches around, somewhere around there?
All right. If you were to take your hand, and I know bear prints, man. These are not, you know, like I know every North American footprint and bear print, wolves, coyotes, man, I love it. You know, I mean, I know my game when it comes to tracking animals and tracks and their habitat and what they eat. You know, I know everything about them, and anybody can quiz me, and I guarantee you know, I'm on my team on that, and I'm proud of it. I would say at least, and you know, holding my finger right now outward on the plate. That plate was at least 10. I would say about 10 inches, maybe. I'd say about 9.5, 10 inches wide, and at least that. So I'd say it was just almost like a at least on the outside toe to outside toe. You know, if you were to take your hand and then like stretch out your thumb, you think you stretch them out the opposite way. You know, at least 9.5 inches wide, if not 10. These things are huge, man.
Yeah, that's a large size print.
I've never seen anything like it. That's what, and it just, and my nephew was with me, you know, because it was that summer in fall there that we had come across them a couple of times before, you know, because we had gone trout fishing, and it was getting towards the end of the season, and then we went to our deer hunting spot, and it was just decimated. You couldn't even see a squirrel out there. And this place was rich with game, man, full of game. Right. You know, like everybody always pulled deer out of there. Everybody always pulled rabbits, and everything, you know what I mean? Like, and it was a ghost town, and it just had a weird feeling. Like, now I know why, you know what I mean? And we came across those prints because the trout was on where we had that roaring and that howl thing happen to us. The trout stream where I saw those prints are on the back side of that, I'd say about an eighth of a mile behind it, and I had found prints literally down, you know, a couple of thousand yards down from where that sighting was during the fall time too. So I was like, man, what is this thing? You know, like there was this lady that would once in a while she would go there with her. She used to have a St. Bernard, you know, and she would go through there. I've seen a St. Bernard track, man. You know what I mean? It was nothing like these tracks. These tracks were huge, man. And I mean, like that St. Bernard's track, his track literally was like basically the size of my palm itself. You know, like that was how big that St. Bernard's track was. This thing dwarfed that track. You know, like it was just unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. And it was they weren't fake. Like there was nobody that was where we go through, you know, you're walking through the brush, you're coming down, going into like a little creek area where the river is, the Trout River. Nobody's been in there. Right. Nobody, you know? Right. So, and I got pictures of those too, if I could just pull them off this phone. More than willing to send all this stuff to you.
Yeah, I'd love to take a look at, and, you know, if you could, before, you know, after the interview, send me a couple so I can include them in the interview. That way people can see some of the tracks that you're talking about. I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. What it's going to take, it probably has to be by tomorrow, though, because I have to put it on my old cell phone right here. Okay. And my port that I have is busted. So I'm trying to figure a way to charge it, because it's an older, so it's one of the older flip phone stuff. I'll take that with me when I go hunting and fishing and stuff, so I didn't damage my phone. All right. And that's how I've got to be able to charge that battery and then like Bluetooth the photos over. So if I can get this thing fixed, absolutely. But I can definitely get you pictures of my print, of the handprint and all the other stuff like that. That I have cast.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is, I'll instead of putting anything up tonight with the video, I'll make a community post and share the prints on the community post so people can see it that way.
So, okay. All right. That'll be fun. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to try to get these things off here. Put them all together, make a portfolio or whatever. It's just crazy, you know. I mean, like I said, you don't think these things are out here, and nobody would think that it's ruined it for me. Like, honestly, it has. I used to, you know, be joy-free and go out and spend all day, all night out in the woods ever since I was a kid. And, you know, like I said, I used to run red-bone coon hounds. I used to run trap lines at night when I'd go and check them. You know, I did all that stuff, and I loved it. I didn't think there was, you don't believe any of these things. And then when it happens to you, and you're like, well, wow, this shit is real. You know, sorry for the cussing.
No,
and then you're like, you know, you don't think that it would happen again, and then you have these experiences over the last, 20 years here, and you're like, man, it's just totally ruined it. Because, I mean, I'm not going to lie and not say that. I'm not. I'd much rather be out there during the day, because where I can see it, I'm well guarded or whatever, but I just can't bring myself to even go out. There were some days that after all this stuff happened that I wouldn't even, I'd wake up, get ready, I'll get up for bow hunting season or gun season, and I'd get right to the door, and sometimes I didn't even make it out the door, or I'd drive right out to where I was supposed to go into the woods, and it'd just still be dark, and I'd look out there, and I'd do it, you know?
Right, yeah, definitely. PTSD, definitely, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Well, but my nephew, he still goes, you know, he's older now, he's older, and, you know, he still goes, he put it behind him, I can't. But, yeah.
Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a question real quick. If you ever have the opportunity to talk to the guy that had the encounter, that had to jump in the water, if he's ever willing, to come on and share, I would love to talk with him.
Absolutely.
Or even if he's willing to talk to me, and I can write out the encounter and just narrate it, that'd be great. But I'd really like to have him come on the show and share that experience as well.
Yeah. Are we recording right now? I'm
recording.
You might be able to. Yeah. After we get done with that, I'm going to actually give you his name.
Okay.
Too, so that, and see, because I've been actually, it's my sister's best friend's father.
Okay.
So I've actually been trying to get a hold of him because I wanted to.
Let's finish this up. Why don't you if you got anything else to say to anybody, to the audience, say it, and then we'll end the show, and then I'll get that info from you right after that.
Absolutely. All I got to say is these things are real, and I'm sure you guys heard, other people on here say the same thing. If somebody tells you something, listen to them. Not everybody is, crazy or out here trying to get, recognition or anything. I could care less about any of that. What I want people to know is that, we're all being lied to. Every one of us, we're all being lied to, for real. These things are out there. Take caution when you're out there. Always have something, whether, and I'm not promoting guns or anything. I have them. If you have them legally, great. But carry protection if you go for any type of nature walk, anything with your kids. Never let them out of your sight. Don't let them out of your sight. I don't care if it's 20, 30, because these things are fast.
Absolutely.
Fast, and powerful, quick. And just keep guard. Always take that time to make sure that your kids or your family members are in your sight. Be prepared. Be well prepared. You don't have to take it serious, but take it serious enough that this could be out there because they really are. And I'd hate to see somebody or something happen to somebody or somebody come up missing or anything like that when, they could have or they have had somebody come out and tell them, hey, beforehand, do that,
Right.
I wouldn't recommend going chasing them if you do know that they're there or whatever like that. And you want to prove or whatever you got to do what you got to do, but don't piss them off because you're going to regret it. And that's it.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and don't hang up, but I'm going to say goodbye, and it's great having you on. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, folks, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in on tonight's second half. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and honestly what makes it a place for people to share their experiences, ideas, theories, judgment, and ridicule free, simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. They are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless you all.